Thank you. I'm just hoping that we've now managed to retrieve all our visitors to the public gallery. I think somewhere in the overspill room I was just allowing hopefully sufficient time to arrive. So we will move on to the next item of business, which is a members' business debate on motion 16302 in the name of Paul O'Kane on Young Carers Action Day 2025. This debate will be concluded without any questions being put, and I would invite those members who would wish to speak in the debate to please press the request to speak buttons, and I call on Paul O'Kane to open the debate. Around 7 minutes, please.
Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer, and I am very pleased to bring this motion to allow the Parliament to recognise Young Carers Action Day 2025 and to pay tribute to the many thousands of young unpaid carers across Scotland. And I will start by noting that I am delighted, as I'm sure everyone across the chamber is, that we're joined by so many young carers in the gallery today from all across Scotland. And I appreciate that Thursday in here is always a very long session at FMQ, so I appreciate some folk might have popped out for a comfort break and will join us again, but it's great to see the gallery so full. And I have to offer a huge thanks to all those at Carers Trust Scotland for coordinating this Young Carers Action Day and getting all of the young people here today, and indeed for all the work that they do year-round supporting young carers, because I know that many young carers have often said that they feel invisible, that they feel that they're not seen, or they're not heard, or they're not talked to by politicians in particular. And I think that's why it's so important that so many of them are here today in their Parliament to hear from their representatives, fronting up to the challenges that they face, listening to their views and saying what we can do about it. Because across Scotland, the Scottish Government estimates that there are at least 30,000 young carers under the age of 18, but that is probably a significant underestimate, whilst other studies have suggested it could be as many as 100,000 young carers in Scotland. And I think today, across the debate, there's going to be a number of asks of the Minister to respond to, and I know she will be listening acutely to the many views that will be raised by colleagues across the chamber and indeed by the young people themselves. But I'm going to kick off straight away by asking how confident the Scottish Government are in its estimates and what are the barriers to actually getting an accurate understanding of the number of young carers in Scotland and what has been done to address the challenges that exist within the data. Because I think the first step in providing support to young carers, all the support that they need and deserve, is to have an accurate picture of who they are, where they are, and so I think it's critical that we get identification data correct. Because young carers who provide support to friends, for their family and for friends and other members of their extended network due to illness, disability, mental health problems or addiction, or any other number of challenges, have to deal with so much additional responsibility over and above their education, the training that they do, the work they may be in, as well as having time to simply enjoy being a young person and doing all the things that young people should do. Often they are taking on burdens that no young person should have to at their age, with consequences for their own health, both mental and physical, and their ability to get the most out of the opportunities that are afforded to young people, most notably education and training. And that's why the theme of this year's Young Carers Action Day is Gi'e a Break. Young carers have got so much responsibility on their shoulders that they often have little time for themselves and are at serious risk of burnout. They need a break, and we know that young carers are significantly more likely to report severe psychological distress than their peers without a caring role. So they need some time out from their caring responsibilities to rest, recharge and focus on themselves, be it for a hobby or just spending time with friends like other people their age, is so important. The Give Me a Break theme also speaks to young carers' need for education professionals and employers to recognise their caring responsibility and to give them a break in life. And that could be by offering more support at school to young carers, recognising that responsibilities at home can mean they often feel overwhelmed, having to juggle their caring responsibilities with coursework or exams, or just being present in the school day. And indeed, in that vein, I was contacted by a constituent in my own village of Neilson just yesterday, asking about what support is available to young carers in schools, and I think that constituent is in the gallery today. So I'm glad to be able to raise that, because we know that the evidence from young carers on the struggles in school are clear and compelling. 47% of student carers said that attending classes was challenging. 49% said that they are never or not often getting help in school, college or university to balance caring with their education. 87% of student carers said that a concentration on assignments and work at home was challenging. Support whilst in education is vital, not just for lightening the load of caring duties in that moment, but also for the longer-term future and making sure that life opportunities are not permanently stunted during a critical phase of any young person's life. So perhaps the Minister could say something in closing about the support in schools, about training being put in place for teachers to be able to properly identify and deal with young carers in a safe and comforting way, and what guidance is available to schools and teachers on how to engage with young carers to ensure they're not inadvertently adding to the weight on their shoulders. And I appreciate that will take a cross-government response, and I know the Minister will answer, but I would be keen to see that engagement across government, because I think it is vitally important that everyone takes responsibility for supporting young carers. Beyond education, young carers in general need respite, as I've already said. Again, the evidence on the pressure they are under is clear from that 2023 Carers Trust survey. 52% always or usually feel stressed because of being a young carer or a young adult carer, and 25% have either never or not often feel that they're getting enough sleep. 43% of young carers or young adult carers have said that caring always or usually affects how much time they spend with their friends. And over half of young carers or young adult carers always or usually feel worried about their future. So I think it is very clear from those very stark statistics of the views of young carers that they need a break. They need time to enjoy hobbies, spend time with friends and take time for themselves, for their own health and well-being. So I want to sum up my contribution by recognising the work that's done by Carers Trust and a myriad of other organisations in Scotland to provide opportunities for young people for that break. I think the Young Carers Festival in Scotland is something that has been so beneficial to so many carers in Scotland over the last 18 years. I know that many colleagues in the Chamber will have attended that festival and engaged with young people there and seen all the fun activities that go on. I know, as I've said, that there are examples of organisations and projects across all of our regions and constituencies that are providing support to young carers so that they can have that break. And that could be as simple as an evening that's protected for young people to come together, share time with other young carers or friends who have similar experiences, talk about them, or even just switch off. I think in East Renfrewshire, often just having a pizza and being able to watch a film with your friends or just hang out is something that's very, very valuable. And it seems very simple to all of us, but it's the added thought process that has to go into that when you are a young carer. So I want to just thank all of the young carers here today in the Chamber and across Scotland for all of the efforts they put into supporting family members, friends, those they care for, and for playing a vital role in our communities and ensuring that we can have a more resilient and a stronger community. And we must all resolve today to do all we can to support them across this chamber, across party political lines, and I hope that's what we'll hear in the debate today. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr O'Kane. We now move to the open debate with backbench speeches of up to 4 minutes. I call Evelyn Tweed to be followed by Jeremy Balfour. Ms Tweed.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and thank you to my colleague Paul O'Kane for bringing this members' business today. I am absolutely delighted to speak today in praise of our young carers and their support staff across Scotland, and I warmly welcome young carers in the gallery, including those from my own constituency. Ahead of this debate, I was reflecting on last year's members' business brought by Karen Adam MSP, where we spoke about the important role of schools and the role that they play in supporting young carers. Olivia and Sarah are here today from Braehead Primary School, along with young carer coordinators Mrs Laurie and Miss Light. I recently visited them at school, where they gave an excellent presentation on what it means to them to be a young carer. This school is an exemplar and is one of only 6 schools in Stirling to have achieved the We Recognise and We Develop awards through the We Care award. It was amazing to see what the school has embedded. Being a young carer is celebrated and achievement shared with the whole school. There is no stigma, and the coordinators are always actively looking for young carers to ensure that they are supported. Young carers can access breakout spaces and sensory rooms when they need a break from their classes. There is a problem shared, problems halved box. Young carers can submit concerns to be discussed with coordinators. They also spend one afternoon a week together doing fun activities like cooking, crafts, or sometimes just chatting and playing board games. The theme of this year's Action Day is, as we've heard, Give Me a Break. The ability to take time out within the school day is important, as are the relationships built in young carers groups. Local young carers have said, "My young carers group is kind, supportive and have helped me along the way. I now feel less alone and mentally happier. I feel like I am coping better because I have met with others that are also going through it." As well as breaks within the school day, longer residential breaks are also important. Time to switch off, to be themselves and to have fun is invaluable. Esther Keane, Young Carers Officer for Stirling Carers Centre, told me that in schools, particularly high schools, young carer coordinators often no longer have dedicated time in their timetables to run support groups. Demand for residential breaks is high and there are often waiting lists. She pointed out that these incredible young people take on the responsibilities normally expected of adults. We must recognise the toll that this can take and ensure support is in place, including access to breaks. Looking at Braehead Primary School, the positive impacts of embedded access to breaks are clear. Mrs Laurie and Miss Light told me, and I quote, "The resources and spaces we have available allow our children to thrive in an environment that they might not necessarily have done before. We have children now approaching us to advocate for themselves and seek support that they think they need. Breaks and relationships built during them are vital. I call on the Government to set out how it will engage with local authorities and work to ensure that breaks, both within the school week and longer residentials, are widely available." And finally, Presiding Officer, a quick shout out to Robert Kearney for all his work in this area, and he is also in the gallery today. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Tweed. I call Jeremy Balfour to be followed by Martin Whitfield. Mr Balfour.
Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer, and it's my real privilege to take part in this debate, and I thank the member for bringing the motion forward. And I too want to welcome all the people into the public gallery. You have brought the average age of this Parliament down dramatically in the last half an hour. I do think, if I can just make one negative point at the start, it is disappointing that not all parties are in the chamber for this debate. If we truly respect young carers, then I think we should have total cross-party support. I, along with other members, have had the privilege of attending the Carers Festival on a number of occasions, and it has been, for me, a really interesting experience listening to their experience and what happens within their part of Scotland. And I think it is really important that we do give people a break, whether that is weekends away, whether that's a summer holiday, whether that is a pizza on a Tuesday night. But I think we do have to also go further. We need to recognise that often school is a really difficult place if you are a carer. And I think what struck me most at last time I went to the Carers Festival was the different practices that take place within different local authorities. And there doesn't seem to be a coordinated approach on how children who care for another sibling or for a parent or for someone else within the family are treated. I think it would be helpful, and again, I appreciate this goes beyond the Minister's portfolio, but guidance on what should be in a school statement. Are we putting enough emphasis on job applications to show that? Because often young carers do have empathy. They do have compassion. They do have resilience beyond their years. But it also comes with challenges that I think are not often recognised by the school or by employers or by society in general. I'd like to briefly just reflect on 2 points from my own personal experience. For those that care or who are being cared for does have an effect on the whole family. Whether that is a sibling or a parent, the effect doesn't just stop with them. I know, having spoken to my own siblings, because of the time that my parents had to give to me, that sometimes they did feel shortchanged, or they did feel they couldn't get the same experiences. Now, they are fairly resilient, they've come through that, but I think we have to look at it in a holistic way, and we have to recognise that caring for somebody within your family affects the whole family. And then the second point, Deputy Presiding Officer, is we have to recognise the number of unpaid carers who are not recognised. And I think that goes back to the opening statement in regard to we don't really know how many unpaid carers there are in Scotland. And I suspect we will never find that number. I was telling my 2 daughters this morning at breakfast that I was speaking in this debate and I would maybe mention them. And they said, why? Why are you mentioning us? I said, well, you go far beyond what your colleagues at school do, whether it's helping me untie my laces, putting on my coat, doing other things. Now, they wouldn't recognise themselves as young carers, and I suspect there's lots of people within our communities who are doing it, who maybe don't appreciate what they're doing and aren't looking for recognition. But I want to finish by thanking all our young unpaid carers for what they do. Without it, our society would not function. And we within this place and across Scotland need to respect them, but not just with words on a Thursday afternoon, but with action that means a difference for them. Thank you, Deputy Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr Balfour. I now call Martin Whitfield to be followed by Willie Reddy. Mr Whitfield.
I'm very grateful, Deputy Presiding Officer, and it is a privilege to take part in this members' debate. And can I extend my congratulations to Paula Kane for securing this debate, but also to all of the young people, as others have done, who've mentioned, who are both in here. And I also know from a text I've just received watching online, which is very worrying. I'd just like to pick up something that the previous contribution talked about. And, you know, can I thank Jeremy for giving a very personal insight into the experience of being cared for and to those around them that are affected by that. And I think the quote that is so often put is that the saying of being a young carer is not a choice, it's just what we do. I think there's something that goes beyond that, and they do it for the love of the individual that they care for. And I think that's an incredibly important emotion. It's an incredibly important article of faith to pick up as to why our young carers do what they do. They do it because of love. They didn't choose the situation they were in, but they, in most cases, and certainly the experience I've had, is they wouldn't change that situation for anything. It is a very powerful part of their identity and their family's identity. I want to echo what has been raised in a number of contributions so far about the data. And I want to do so because I have a bizarre ask of the Minister. I do this because I love finding the small and perhaps insignificant, but perhaps is indicative of a value. And I'm sure that the Minister can take this on board and find a conclusion to it. And that is this, that the Scottish Government recognise some 30,000 young carers, but as we've already heard, there's a belief that it's more than 100,000. Now, the authority for that statement, interestingly, comes from Embedding Children's Rights positional statement on the 18th of November 2022, and I have no problem with that. But fascinating when you try to find out what the authority for that 30,000 comes from. As so many young people will know, they have to reference their facts. The government reference a very interesting fact. They make reference to The Standards in Scotland Schools Act of 2000, section 16, subsection 4. I'm not sure why that relates to corporal punishment and when actual physical intervention can protect a child, which again is an interesting example of where it is. So perhaps my slightly mirth but serious position is this, to find the authority for that 30,000, because it is clearly a number that is far less than the reality that's faced. And the previous contribution talked about people who don't identify themselves as carers. When we look at the number of carers that are identified in our school system, it is pitifully low. And yet the experiences that those young people have to put up to is enormous. So, coming to a conclusion, I do want to also mention the Young Carers Covenant and to remind colleagues, friends and others across this chamber that they can sign up to the Covenant, which identifies a commitment to go beyond words on a Thursday, but in fact into actions. A Covenant that says there should be identification at the earliest opportunity. There should be access to succeed in employment and training opportunities, that our carers are safe and secure, that they feel they have choice in their lives, that they can access and benefit from the rights that they have. They are able to thrive in education, have time for themselves, gives a break, can access the support for them and their families, and have good physical and mental health, and live free from poverty. Those ideals are so important to everyone in Scotland, and as a first step to show support for that covenant in relation to our young carers, I think is a heroic move forward that we can carry on beyond words here on a Thursday. I'm grateful, Deputy Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr Whitfield. I call Willie Rennie to be followed by Colin Beattie.
Can I first pay tribute to the Carers Trust for bringing so many young people here today. It does make a difference. This is not just a series of speeches. We take these away from us, and it has an impact on the policies that we develop for our parties, but also the scrutiny with which we hold the government to account. And I also want to pay tribute to Paul O'Kane for leading this debate, and in advance of the Minister's final contribution, to pay credit to her for the work that she's done in this area. And I hope that encourages her to give an even more positive response when she does conclude. I have a memory of going to, I think it was Broomlea, where the festival was held before, and there was face painting, and Christine Graham, who was along with me on that particular day, decided of all the things to give me was a black eye on my face, which I carried for the rest of the day. I'm sure that reflected a more physical, permanent feature she'd like to make to my face, but nevertheless, it was a joyful day, which we had great fun at. But I also, I think there's two sides to this in terms of what this does to the personal impact on young people. I think Jeremy Balfour's point about growing up quickly, the skills that they gather, the empathy that they develop, the resilience that they have, the multitasking ability that they have to develop is a huge upside to a very challenging circumstance, but it's a huge upside. And it will see them well for the rest of their lives in future job opportunities and education purposes as well. But also the challenge and the pressure that they are under. I can't imagine the pressures of growing up, which is difficult itself, but growing up with that extra responsibility, which Martin Whitfield says quite rightly, they do it for the sake of love, but nevertheless, it is still quite a sacrifice to make. And that's why I think in government we need to take extra steps to make sure that we're providing the infrastructure and the support that's available for them. And that's why I support all the measures that's been set out today, including breaks, but also the understanding that we need to try and develop across all the public services. So not just the education system, but every part of our public services. And in fact, all of us fully understand what it means to be a carer and what we can do to help. So that understanding, as well as the services and the extra support available. The final remark I want to make is, this is quite personal to us. Many will have seen the story about Ed Davey, my party leader, and caring for his young son, John, who has been disabled from birth. And it's quite moving to watch it, and it's clearly deeply felt by him. And he has been making a personal mission to try and change the system on behalf of all carers, whether older carers or young carers. but also Wendy Chamberlain, my colleague in North East Fife, who managed to deliver the Carers Leave Bill, which entitles workers to that leave from work to be able to look after their loved one. 2 measures, small measures, but really important steps that we all need to engage in to try and make life a little bit better for those who care after those that we love. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Rennie. I call Colin Beattie to be followed by Brian Whittle. Mr Beattie.
Deputy Presiding Officer, it's a privilege to be here today to mark Young Carers Action Day, which recognises and celebrates the incredible contributions of young carers across Scotland. This is an opportunity to shine a light on the experiences of young carers who balance their own lives with the immense responsibility of caring for a loved one. And I would thank Paul O'Kane for bringing forward this debate. Too often young carers' dedication goes unnoticed. Many young carers are juggling their education, social life, caring responsibilities and their own well-being. Their strength and resilience is inspiring, but we must recognise that they cannot do this alone, and together we can ensure that the tens of thousands of young carers across Scotland have all the support they need. This year's theme, Give Me a Break, is a crucial reminder that young carers deserve time to rest, recharge and simply be young. However, balancing the responsibilities is challenging. Caring for someone can be rewarding, but it can also be physically and emotionally demanding. Many young carers are sacrificing their own time, education and social lives to support family members. That's why I'm pleased to see an extra £5 million in the 2025-26 budget committed to help unpaid carers take short breaks. This essential funding offers young carers a chance to step away from their responsibilities and focus on their own well-being. This is to the benefit of the young person and also the relative they're caring for. The need for these breaks is clear. Carers Trust Scotland found that 52% of young carers felt stressed and 47% found it difficult to attend classes because of their caring role. Without the right support, too many young carers risk burnout, putting their education and aspirations in jeopardy. Many arrive at school already exhausted from a morning of their caring duties, or they may have to leave school early, missing out on their lessons. Over time, this can impact on their grades and their confidence. And that's why we must do more to ensure that every young carer gets the support they need to stay in school, achieve their goals and thrive. Flexible learning arrangements or additional time to complete assignments can make a real difference. Ensuring that staff are equipped to recognise and to understand the pressures young carers are under is essential to offer tailored support, whether through counselling, mentoring or simply an understanding approach. No young person should have to choose between caring for a loved one and securing their own future. By removing these barriers, we can ensure that they have every opportunity to achieve their potential. Whilst there is clearly still work to be done to improve support for young carers, we can be proud of some of the efforts the Scottish Government has made. The Young Carer Grant is a unique payment only available in Scotland. This financial support helps young carers aged 16 to 18 to manage the pressures they face. However, it's reported that up to 25% of eligible young carers have not applied for this support. And I would urge the Scottish Government to ensure that all young carers are made aware of this support which they are entitled to. So today, on Young Carers Action Day, let's do more than simply celebrate our country's young carers and the sacrifices they make, but commit to act, to give them the real break they all deserve. Let's ensure they are supported to balance their education and caring responsibilities. To young carers joining us today in the public gallery and every young carer out there, thank you for what you do. Your hard work and dedication inspire me and my colleagues. So let's work together to make sure you do get the support and the recognition and the breaks that you deserve. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Beattie. I call Brian Whittle to be followed by Carl Mockin. Mr Whittle.
Thank you very much, Deputy Presiding Officer. It is a privilege to rise to speak in this debate, and I thank my colleague Paul O'Kane for bringing this to the Chamber. And I have to say that you might not recognise this, but we're not used to speaking in the Chamber when the gallery is so full. especially when they're up there going, "Come on, impress me then, big man." I mean, that's not usually what we do. But the Scottish Government has estimated that there are at least 30,000 young carers under the age of 18 in Scotland. This is thought to be an underrepresentation. As Jeremy Balfour very eloquently put, many young carers don't realise that they are young carers. And studies have indicated there could be as many as 100,000 young carers in Scotland. The theme of this year's Young Carers Action Day is "Give me a break," or in Scottish parlance, "Gi's a break." Survey data in Scotland has consistently shown, though, that only 3 or 4% of carers are having a break. From my conversation with the Young Carers Trust and the Coalition of Carers in Scotland, we know that breaks look different for each individual, and some of these things can be everyday activities that people who are not care experienced take for granted, like doing your shopping or attending a hospital appointment, having a coffee with a friend, or even participating in everyday activities and interacting with friends. We also know that young carers face barriers in accessing support, but particularly those in rural areas face challenges to accessing their right to a break due to the availability of support and the right options for a break. For the last 18 years, Carers Trust have organised the Scottish Young Carers Festival that allow for young carers to have a break away. And like many of my colleagues in the chamber, this is actually a highlight of our year. And we have days in here that are better than others. That day is one of the best days, I think, that we do. And we get the opportunity to watch the young carers in abandon and carefree doing things like strapping old men into harnesses and pushing them down zip lines in the hope of making them squeal. But on top of that, though, we get the opportunity to sit with young carers around a table, and we give them the opportunity to express to us and question us and tell us what their lives are like and how we in this chamber can make their lives better. And I'm always struck by things like, that you would never imagine, that the barriers potentially at school, the lack of understanding potentially of teachers in schools, and how we need to make sure that all teachers are properly aligned and understand the needs of carers, and potentially why homework is sometimes late, and why sometimes they come into school tired and unable to give their best work. Breaks like this play an important role in the preventative health agenda by allowing carers time away that can help them manage their stress and cope better. There are mounting evidence that caring is a social, is a social detriment to a determinant of health and contributes to health inequalities, and 91% of young carers experience an impact on their mental health and emotional well-being as a result of their caring role. What I would say, I had so much to say, Deputy Presiding Officer, I realise time was short. What I would say is, at the moment, there is an opportunity to correct this as legislation is passing through Parliament at the moment in stage 3. And I do believe this could have been brought forward in secondary legislation before now, but we are where we are, and it is incumbent upon us in this place to ensure that we give all the support we can in this bill and continue to recognise the huge contribution that young carers give and to support them and their families, and to make sure that they get every help they possibly can. Deputy Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Mr Whittle. I now call Cara Mochan to be followed by Karen Adam. Ms Mochan.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And can I also thank all of the young carers in the gallery today. It really is a delight to have you with us. But of course, a special shout out to the South Ayrshire young carers that I met outside, who were really kind and spent some time with me. It is much appreciated. Can I, of course, thank my colleague Paul O'Kane for bringing this debate to the Chamber. It is absolutely right that we make time in this place to discuss such an important issue. Paul O'Kane has been a champion for carers this parliamentary session, bringing this issue, I think in the way that others have spoken about, Willie Rennie in particular, to the Chamber on many occasions, working cross-party to make changes, and out with Parliament, working with so many organisations and charities to raise the voices of carers and ensure we see lasting change. So again, I say thank you for giving us this opportunity to specifically talk about young carers today. Others have mentioned the data, the statistics, so I'm not going to go over that again, but just to say over 30,000 young carers under the age of 18. It's absolutely incumbent on us to make sure that we support them. I thank the Carers Trust for the work that they do in gathering all this information. As others have said, it is important that we have it to ensure we understand the issues and that we use the information to help guide us in the solutions we need to provide adequate support to all our invaluable carers, and in particular today, young carers. Today's debate is to respond to National Young Carers Day, and so I really want to commend the contribution that young carers make to our society when caring for their loved ones. As we know, young carers often don't recognise themselves as carers, and many young carers do not think twice about what it is that they do, so we owe them a great deal of gratitude. Dumfries and Galloway Carers Centre in my own region wrote to ask for my support for Young Carers Action Day 2025, which I am absolutely delighted to do. And the theme, of course, Gaze a Break, focuses on the importance of breaks and respite for young carers and the need for schools and employers, as others have said, to better support them in school and in work. In previous debates and in meetings with young carers, I am aware that the reality for many young carers here in Scotland is that caring responsibilities can dominate life, and young carers often do not realise this and just continue without support. In the correspondence from Dumfries and Galloway Young Carers manager, Sarah Jackson, who works directly with young carers, she explained that the damaging impact of a lack of support and burnout means many young carers are often at breaking point, and the reality on the ground can be quite difficult. I think what stood out for me in this correspondence is, yes, young people need a break in the straightforward sense of respite from their caring responsibilities, but also, and others have really touched on this, they need a break to be given equal opportunities to thrive. And this is why Carers Trust Scotland is urging schools, colleges and universities to step up. So it would be great to hear other people's contributions on that and the Minister's response or commitment definitely to work across government to get that. It is our responsibility as politicians to work together to ensure this happens, that young carers feel confident in the support available to them and their loved ones. For my part, I commit to doing this, and I hope this debate sparks us all to do more together to respond to the needs of our young carers in Scotland. It is so incumbent on us to do so, and I want to thank everyone who has spoken and about to speak in the debate today. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Ms Mockin. Before I call the next speaker, I would advise members that due to the number of members who wish to speak in this debate, I'm minded to accept a motion without notice under Rule 8.14.3 to extend the debate by up to 30 minutes. I now invite Paul O'Kane to move a motion without notice.
Formally moved.
Many thanks, Mr O'Kane. The question is that the debate be extended by up to 30 minutes. Are we all agreed? Yes. That is agreed, and I now call Karen Adam to be followed by Megan Gallagher. Ms Adam.
Thank you, Presiding Officer. And I would like to begin by thanking my colleague on the Equalities, Human Rights and Civil Justice Committee, Paul O'Kane, for bringing this important debate to Chamber today. And I know that it is a subject that is close to his heart, and he is really passionate about extending the voices of young carers into Parliament. And I also want to extend a very warm welcome to the young carers who have joined us in the gallery today. It truly is an honour for all of us to have you here. It was a privilege, actually, last year, as my colleague Evelyn Tweed noted, that I brought the debate here, particularly prompted by young carers in my constituency. And really, through their courage, resilience and determination, they have left a lasting impression on me. And it is because of them and the thousands of young carers across Scotland that we are here again today, ensuring their voices are heard. I was prompted really by something that Jeremy Balfour has spoken about, and that lived experience at home, and felt like scoring out some of the lines in my speech here today and just talking from the heart on a few aspects of that. I have a home where I have children with additional support needs. And growing up, my other children had to support them and support me in the home. And oftentimes we think, what is it like to be a carer? And when, I suppose, you ask somebody, what does that look like? You imagine somebody physically helping someone, feeding them, changing them and caring for them. But a lot of the time, caring might not even look like that at all. Being a young carer, for example, a sibling carer, could mean that you're quickly vacuuming the living room after some kind of messy explosion while a parent nips out with the child that has that additional support need to clean them up, to get them fixed up. Sometimes it's running to grab a pair of socks because you need to dress your child and the sibling is there to do that. Wee errands that are around the house. And oftentimes we don't maybe acknowledge that that's what caring can be or really what it can look like. It can be having to stay up through the night and go to school very tired because you have a sibling that is restless through the night and making noise. It can also mean missing out on days out, trips out, because you have a sibling that has these additional needs, but still finding that patience and kindness at home. It can mean sharing your parents' time unevenly. So it means a lot to be a young carer and specifically a young carer. So this year's Young Carers Action Day theme, Give Me a Break or Gi's a Break, it couldn't be more fitting because it does highlight two critical areas of support that young carers desperately need. And that is time for themselves to find rest and also a greater call for understanding and flexibility from schools, colleges, universities and workplaces. Presiding Officer, I'm here today in this gallery because the young carers that supported me with their siblings growing up are the ones at home keeping things ticking over now as adults. And that's usually what happens. Young carers don't stop caring. They grow into adult carers. And it is up to all of us to ensure that their voices are heard. The young carer in my constituency holds me account, and this week she was emailing me to make sure that I was doing something for Young Carers Action Day. So I just want to say to my constituent, I'm here and I'm keeping your voice going. And to the young carers in the gallery today, and to those who couldn't be here, we see you, we value you, we recognise everything you do, and what you do matters more than you will ever know. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms Adam. And I call Megan Gallagher. Ms Gallagher.
Thank you, Presiding Officer, and I'm really pleased to be able to speak in this debate this afternoon. I congratulate Paul O'Kane for securing the motion and bringing Young Carers Action Day 2025 to the Chamber. The reason I wanted to speak in today's debate was because on Tuesday I received an email from a young adult carer development worker at Falkirk and Clackmannanshire Carers Centre, and they wanted to send through a letter from young adult carers of Falkirk and Clackmannanshire to make sure that we as MSPs are raising the points of the Action Day itself in relation to Giza Break, but also to make sure that we are raising concerns in relation for the need for universities, colleges and employers to make better support for young carers in terms of education and work. And I think those points have been raised throughout the debate this afternoon by Martin Whitfield, by Jeremy Balfour and by other contributions as well. Because as young adult carers, their caring responsibilities doesn't always mean that they have time to see their friends, to enjoy hobbies or to focus on education or work. Their minds are usually elsewhere, on their families, on the people that they are caring for, because that's what they feel is important and what they want to make sure that they are providing that best possible care to the people that they love so much. But because they are thinking about the people that they care for, it really can be hard for them to take that break, to take that moment for them to enjoy whatever it is that they want to do. And that's why it's so important that we are raising these issues today in the Chamber, to make sure that their voices are heard, but also to make sure that we as a Parliament and the Scottish Government are continuing to improve the lives for young carers right across Scotland. Now, I think it was really important actually when Paul O'Kane raised the data that we need in relation to accurate numbers of young carers, and I do hope that the Minister will be able to address that point within her summing up today. And many members, of course, as well reflected on their attendance at the Young Carers Festival, and I, of course, visited the Young Carers Festival back in 2023. And it was a fantastic day. I mean, I remember the photo booth well, I remember the inflatable bouncy castles. I didn't get a shot of them, really disappointed about it. The activities that were ongoing, the sports, the hair and makeup, which, I mean, the queue for the hair and makeup, I mean, it was, you know, as long, it was there for miles, but I can understand why it was so popular, particularly amongst the young girls, of course, that were there, the young women, of course, as well. And when we sat down to speak to the young carers who rightfully challenged us on what more we can be doing as parliamentarians to improve their lives, they then went on to tell me that they were off to a disco. So it shows you how good these festivals are, but it again stresses the importance of the theme of Young Carers Action Day, which of course is Giza Break, because that was an occasion where young carers were able to enjoy that break, which is so important. So I think, you know, I want to close my remarks, Presiding Officer, if I may, just by reiterating how MSPs can show their support, particularly this week, given that Young Carers Action Day was yesterday. And we can, of course, share information and content on social media using the hashtags Young Carers Action Day, hashtag YCAD 2025, and hashtag, of course, Giza Break. But as Martin Whitfield also highlighted, signing up to the Young Carers Covenant, that commitment to support outcomes that will improve the lives of young adult carers. And then, of course, speaking to our councillor colleagues, because we can ask them to lodge motions to make sure that our councils are also going as far as they can to make sure that our young carers are supported right across all of our local authority areas. So with that, Presiding Officer, I just want to wish all of our young carers in the gallery a very happy and successful Young Carers Action Day, and to reiterate the words of Karen Adam, we do appreciate you more than you will all ever know. Thank you so much. Thank you, Presiding Officer.
Thank you, Ms Gallagher. And I now call on Minister Marie Todd to respond to the debate. Around 7 minutes, please.
Many thanks. I want to start by thanking Paul O'Kane for initiating this really important debate regarding Young Carers Action Day, and to thank all of you for being here to discuss young carers and the absolutely vital contribution that they make to society. I value Young Carers Action Day because it not only puts a spotlight on the important issues that young carers are facing, but it also allows us to hear directly from young carers. And I am so delighted that there are over 150 young carers here today in Parliament. It was an absolute pleasure to chat with many of you outside this morning at the photo op. I'm really pleased that you're speaking about what you need from us as decision makers and listening and learning about how you can create change. On the point that Mr Balfour raised, I know that my colleague Gillian Mackay from the Green Party will be very well known to many people in the carers community, and she will undoubtedly be very sorry that she was unable to attend Parliament today because of personal circumstances which were unexpected. I am absolutely delighted that Parliament's been given the opportunity to acknowledge the positive role that young carers play in their families and in our society. But it is important that we also take time to reflect on some of the pressures that they face. This year's Young Carer Action Day theme is Giza Break. That's my very best Scots, which is not bad for a Highlander. The contributions of young carers in Scotland are absolutely vital and deeply appreciated. So it's really important that they receive the support they need to take a break from their caring role, and equally importantly that they feel supported to pursue their educational and work aspirations. Like many in the Chamber, I've been honoured to hear first-hand from young carers this morning and at last year's Scottish Young Carers Festival just how important rest and respite is for them, not only for them, their well-being, but to enable them to be children first and foremost. In a similar debate marking last year's Young Carers Action Day, I welcomed the launch of the Carers Trust Young Carers Covenant. And I committed at that time to engaging with my ministerial colleagues about the possibility of the Scottish Government signing up. And over the past year, consideration has been given to that commitment to understand what that would mean for the wide range of policies across government relevant to young carers. So I'm absolutely delighted to confirm today that the Scottish Government will be formally committing to the Young Carers Covenant and the 10 outcomes contained within it. Doing so will make us the first government in the UK to do this, and we hope it will serve as an example to other organisations to do the same. The outcomes within the Covenant align with our policies and actions, including those in our National Carers Strategy, and work is already underway in many of these areas, including those linked to this year's Young Carer Action Day theme and today's motion. These are that young carers have time for themselves, are able to thrive in education and can access and succeed in employment or training opportunities. So I'm grateful for the opportunity now to mention some of the work we are taking to meet these outcomes and to support young carers. The Scottish Government recognises the demand on young carers, so it works to support their access to breaks and hobbies and opportunities for time for themselves. And I've been very grateful for the cross-party support for our legislation to establish a right for breaks for carers in what's now the Care Reform Bill. I won't split hairs with my colleague Brian Whittle, but primary legislation absolutely is necessary in order to give carers that right, rather than just to fund the breaks. Ahead of the legislation, we're increasing the voluntary sector short breaks funding in 25-26 by a further £5 million to a total of £13 million. That's expected to support up to 15,000 additional people, including young carers, to take short breaks away from their caring responsibilities. As part of this, we're also increasing funding for the Young Carer Package to £400,000 in 25-26. That will mean the package can provide more opportunities for more young carers to access some form of respite and to enjoy time with family and friends. And I absolutely echo my colleague Colin Beattie's point. We need more people to be aware of this, more young people to be aware of this, and the uptake to be 100% would be great. Alongside these measures, we continue to fund the annual Young Carer Festival. That's an amazing and important event to help young carers to have a break, to pursue new opportunities and to have fun. All of those initiatives are highlighted in our National Carers Strategy. Now into the third year of implementation, the strategy sets out our approach to addressing issues facing carers, as well as a long-term vision for building a sustainable future for young carers. We recognise in the strategy that young carers' education and their future prospects are incredibly important, and that's why we fully fund an education officer at Carers Trust Scotland, and will continue to work with education colleagues to ensure that young carers are seen and supported in school. Through that collaborative work, the Scottish Government, Carers Trust Scotland and Education Scotland do produce an e-learning module for all education staff to help them to better understand how they can identify and support young carers. And the module is fully accredited by Education Scotland. I'd be more than happy to write to the member with more details of what we're doing to support what the outcome is of that collaboration. It would be remiss of me not to mention school nurses, actually, because they play a vital role in the health and well-being of school-aged children and families in our communities. And we've completely transformed their role over the last few years to address child health needs in school-aged children at an early change. They have their work centres around 10 priority areas, and one of those priority areas is young carers. We've been working with Skills Development Scotland and employers with projects like Carers Positive to make sure that when young carers are ready to join the world of work, there continues to be flexibility and support for them. And all of the work I've just mentioned has been guided by young carers telling us what they need, and that's why it is so important that they're here today, making sure their voices are heard. We will continue to listen to young carers to shape our work. On the issue of data, the carer population surveys, including for young carers, are published annually based on the Scottish Health Service. Those are based on about 4 years of survey results, on 4 years, not about, better be accurate when we're talking about data. So they're based on 4 years of survey results to improve accuracy. But the results rely on people recognising themselves as carers, and that's amplified for young carers because the surveys are completed by adults. We're including questions on caring in schools, health and wellbeing census, and we're working to raise awareness amongst teachers of the importance of noting a student if a student's a young carer on the CMIS survey. But really, largely, one of the big contributors to the underestimate in the data is that many of our young people don't identify as carers. As was quoted by Martin Whitfield, it's just what we do. I also love that Martin Whitfield mentioned love. That has been very appropriate for today's debate, and I'm grateful that he highlighted that people care with love. So, to close, I want to acknowledge members' powerful contributions, some speaking directly for their constituents, some bringing caring to life by reflecting on their own experiences. But most importantly, I want to acknowledge the huge contribution made by young carers right across Scotland. And I want to reiterate the Scottish Government's commitment to doing what we can to make sure that young carers have access to the support that they deserve when they need it. Thank you.
Thank you, Minister. That concludes the debate, and I suspend this meeting until 2:30 p.m. Thank you.